lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we're going to be doing something a little different. Instead of looking back at the year that was 2023 in a sort of celebratory fashion, I kind of wanted to take a chance to look at the year ahead, because after spending about an hour or two looking at what was coming out in 2024 for us to review and cover on the show, I think there's a lot for us to talk about. So we're going to be going through all of the major upcoming horror releases of 2024 and giving our quick thoughts on them. Now, obviously, by us covering them, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to cover these on the show at some point. It might just be fun to discuss them now. And I also feel like a lot of these releases that have the so-called release dates nailed down, I kind of feel like they're going to shift after the SAG-AFTRA strike and whatnot. So we're just doing our best here. This is a new thing that we're trying just for the 2024 preview. So give us a break if they announce something huge right at the end of the year that is not included on our year ahead. But before we get into all that, Rowan, I wanted to know more generally, how was your 2023? Did you achieve your New Year's resolutions? Do you even do resolutions? Any upcoming podcast resolutions? Let's just talk about the year that was 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of my resolutions are pretty much like movie watching, podcast related. I can't even really remember what I know I said in an episode or something. Like I had some sort of movie watching resolution last year. I can't really remember what it was. I feel like it was about watching like different kinds of creators and stuff, which, I think I didn't seek it out as much as I probably should, but I'm sure I kind of accomplished that anyway by seeing as many things as possible. And then I don't know, I thought 2023 was, I always think about like YouTube videos, like guys kind of doing their overview of like, was this a good year in horror? And I don't know, I feel like every year you feel like it's all right, and then it's always the reflection like 10 years later that you were like, damn, we were in like a heyday that year.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't know, like I kind of felt 2023 was there was some good stuff. There was some good stuff. There was some not so great stuff. I was like kind of looking back, just looking at what we did. And, I was like, it started, our year started strong. We did Megan and Sick right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the post-COVID effect, is like Sick. I thought I did that like 2 years ago, and apparently that was the beginning of this year.
Yeah, sometimes the years kind of blend together or feel a little bit longer than we expected.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, like I thought there was like, there was some big stuff. There was some cool stuff. We did like Skinamarink, and, we got a new Evil Dead movie. The most important film we did this year, The Pope's Exorcist.
Absolutely. That was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming just with that film, we'll look back at this year as one of the golden years of just film as moving pictures. So what about you? What about your resolutions, and, how did you feel the year went for horror?
Well, I straight up failed all of my resolutions this year, everything. I was like, I'll get back to writing. I'll write another feature-length horror screenplay. I completely failed on that. I was like, I'll try and, reach a certain goal weight by the end of the year. And I think I've probably gained a few pounds like most of us, or at least I am pretty much the same weight as I was at the beginning of the year, fluctuated throughout, but it's the classic like New Year's thing, always trying to improve, look a little bit better, and you come out just kind of looking the same. So I failed that as well, and I guess I do have a pretty good excuse. Like, I should be thankful, really, because I was so busy and working so consistently throughout the entire year that I just never really had too much time to kind of focus on myself and give too much mind share to my resolutions. So, there's always next year, so we'll see how 2024 is on that front. In terms of horror and whatnot, I think it was probably a weaker year in horror, in my opinion. Like, usually, like, my top 10 of the year always includes at least one or two horror picks where this year, when I'm just glancing at it, like Talk to Me, I guess technically, is a 2022 movie. It'll probably make my 2023 release, list, just because it basically had its big premieres in 2023, despite, premiering in 2022 in Australia. But other than that, like, there's not really anything that's in my top 10 from a horror release, really, unless you want to say like Dream Scenario is a horror movie, which we never covered on this show because it's it's basically like a psychological, weird, quirky, offbeat comedy sort of thing, dark comedy. So I would say it's a weaker year overall. There was obviously lots for us to review on the show. Like, we probably had 20 episodes or so, I would say, of Now Slaying this year. So there was lots to talk about. It just, I don't know if it was all of like a incredibly high quality, but I don't know. As I look ahead to next year, it seems like that's shaping up to be one hell of a year. So maybe with that, we should just get started. What do you think?
Yeah, the only comment I really had is I kind of felt that 2023 was like the year of, I don't know, let's call it like the big box horror. Like, I think we saw a lot of the major studios just using this year to cash in on what kind of kept them afloat during the pandemic, which was like horror movies that they can make cheaply, that they, people go see horror movies in the theater. It's just kind of a thing. Like, they make money. Where, like you said, I think, when we get into it, I think there's a little, I never like to use elevated horror, but it seems like there's going to be a lot more, higher made horror coming in the new year, where this year felt like it was a lot of like popcorn horror stuff.
Yeah, like this year, obviously there was the new Exorcist, the new Evil Dead, new Saw movie. They finally made it Five Nights at Freddy's, right? There's just a lot of very commercial kind of mainstays in horror, where for me personally, as someone who does enjoy elevated horror, more so a lot of times than the more commercial stuff, it was just kind of a dry year for me, I guess. Like, there wasn't really an A24 banger other than Talk to Me, in my opinion. That kind of really blew me away. So it's just, for me and my horror taste, was a little bit more of a downbeat year overall. Not necessarily a bad or an awful year, just... there's definitely been better years in the past few years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With that, I think it just probably makes sense to just, get into this. We're basically just going to progress through the year in release order and see where the conversation takes us. Let's think of this episode as a more laid-back conversation where, we're both just sitting by the fire, having a drink, relaxing, and, having a chat about what we're looking forward to in 2024 in the horror landscape.
Except one of us just brought pages and pages of notes like a maniac.
To be fair, we both do have pages of notes. Rowan has probably gone a little bit overboard compared to myself, but it's just, we don't have to make sure it's all buttoned up. It doesn't have to be super structured. It doesn't have to always be the same layout to every single movie. If we do that, it's gonna get boring anyways. But, let's just try and have fun. Let's celebrate the year that's coming up in horror. And like I said, probably most of these will wind up slipping and change to another year anyways. But as it stands now, on December 18th, this is what it looks like 2024 is shaping up to be. With the first of the year, I'll just start, I guess, with Night Swim, releasing on January 5th. The little blurb that's out for this one is: forced into early retirement by a degenerative illness, former baseball player Ray Waller moves into a new house with his wife and 2 children. He hopes that the backyard swimming pool will be fun for the kids and provide physical therapy for himself. However, a dark secret from the home's past soon unleashes a malevolent force that drags the family into the depths of inescapable terror. This one, I'm sure we're both very familiar with Night Swim at this point. We've seen the trailers, right, for the past 6 months.
8 million times, yes. Yes.
Yeah. What was weird was the last time I went to the theater, I had this idea that I was actually, like, anticipating this movie. I was like, I remember, like, the woman swimming back and forth in the pool. It just seemed a little bit more subtle. You didn't really know what it was that was, kind of getting her in the pool. The latest trailer for this is like 3 minutes long. It gives you, this huge blurb that I never even knew that was the plot of the movie until I saw this latest trailer. And now I kind of feel like I'm going in already having the entire movie spoiled for me.
This is life in the modern world.
Yeah, it was just so strange because I loved how kind of, stripped back the first couple trailers for this was. But I mean, outside of like James Wan's involvement, I'm not really sure if this is one that I'm like super looking forward to do. It's in that section for like the Blumhouse kind of like dumping ground where, to be fair, we did get Megan in that kind of general area last year. But it's not, I don't know, it doesn't fill me with confidence. What about you? You looking forward to this one? Or
starting off the year with this, this unholy dynamic duo partnership of Atomic Robot and Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always, I kind of think of it like this, that I kind of think of myself, we always dub you as the A24 bro, and I don't think there's like an equivalent to like a Blumhouse guy. Like, I feel like the Blumhouse guy would be like kind of like a brony, but it needs like its own name. And
the Blumhouse guy is like,
I feel
you're 14.
Me. Yeah, it's me.
You're 14 and you're bringing like, a girl to the movies for the first time. It's like your first or second relationship trying to get something going. That's the Blumhouse person, I pretty much think, in my head at least. It's always just a much younger demographic.
Yeah, which is weird because I always, I talk about I hate these like PG and these 14 like horror films. And then I just always think about I'm always just rooting for Blumhouse because I just like the idea that they're in their heyday, man. They're just pumping it out. This one kind of interested me on the fact, this is a first-time director, Bryce McGuire, and this isn't the only time we're going to see his name come up on this list.
Oh, interesting. I might have missed it in a later edition then.
Yeah.
But this guy also did a short called Night Swim as well, which, hopefully has kind of prepped him for leaping into, like, making a directorial feature debut with it as well.
I did not watch it. I was thinking about it, but then I was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna.
It's too much homework. We can't do that for every single.
I already had.
We got a lot of movies to cover
and
here.
Stuff, but like I was interested. I hadn't heard about the short, but I mean, me having my finger on the pulse of viral YouTube videos probably isn't a measure that's gonna happen. But I did read that it was a viral YouTube video.
Okay, nice. I haven't seen it either, so yeah, it missed me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we got talked to me, so I'm kind of interested now in YouTubers in like financial space to do film. So I'm like I said, I'm mildly interested in this. I'm still not 100% sold on the concept, but
yeah, it just seems a little bit too elaborate for me now, this concept. I'm going to have these questions throughout the entire movie of like, why didn't you just drain the pool after like some people started getting eaten or whatever happens in this pool? And yeah, like the general other horror questions you have of like, well, why didn't you just move away? Or, we're going to have to see. Obviously, these questions are going to be answered January 5th. We're going to be covering this one for sure.
It better be a nice fucking pool if they're just letting people die in it.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get that pool skimmer going. You got to make sure that you're wrapping up all the bodies. No one knows. Hopefully this is a good way to kick off the year because, like I said, we're definitely going to be covering this one. It's going to be our unofficial kind of January pick. So hopefully it'll be a good way to kick things off.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one on the list? I think that you were the one that brought this one to my attention. It wasn't even on my radar. So
I came so prepared that I don't have the release date on this written in my notes.
It's January 26th, but like it's not going to hit this date in the States because it's a Swedish movie, right? Like we're probably going to get this in April or something, right?
So, and remember, people, this is the kind of pick that Rowan sends Colton at 6:00 in the morning when he's definitely asleep. And I'm like, hey, you got to add this and find out all about this because I'm that kind of guy. But yeah, so the movie's called Handling the Dead. It's directed by Thea.
Handling the Undead.
The Undead, sorry. My reading skills are not up there, apparently. But it's directed by Thea Histendal. I did some research on her. This is kind of her debut feature film. She's a music video director, so that can always be like a hit or miss thing. I'm kind of thinking of what ruined my life with what was it called, Queen and Slim, and I was super excited for it, and I just thought it didn't really live up to the hype.
But then sometimes you get David Fincher,
Yeah, that's right.
That this one's going to be David Fincher, but
Alien 3, just the best David Fincher ever. But
absolutely.
So I got a little synopsis for this one. On an abnormally hot summer day in Oslo, a strange electric field surrounds the city as a collective migrate rain spreads across town, and the newly deceased awake from death. So this is based on a book.
Okay, yeah, and is it the author of Let the Right One In?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right.
Yeah, so it is the author. I got a chance to check out the trailer for this. I'm not sure if you looked at the trailer or not.
I didn't, no.
So this seems like it's going to be a Colton movie. This, I'm surprised like an A24 did not pick this up.
Well, Neon picked it up,
Yeah,
which is
so-
kind of, in recent years, they are kind of starting to get that like A24 cachet, right? Obviously, Neon has had some really successful like awards players at the Oscars and whatnot. It's just I don't think they've kind of really broken out to be like a new A24. But
Yeah.
give it a couple of years, they'll 100% be the same thing.
Will you be wearing a Neon shirt in a couple of years is the
I've
question.
actually already looked at Neon shirts in
Oh,
the past, over the
jeez.
past year or so. So yes, the answer to that is.
But yeah, no, I'm kind of excited for this. It looks like it's gonna be. I like what it seems to be from the trailers. You know, it's like kind of it's definitely a horror movie, but also like a family drama and like a town drama, I guess. More about relationships, and
Have you seen The Worst Person in the World?
I haven't yet.
Okay, so the star of this movie, that was the one thing that instantly kind of drawn me to it. It's just Renate Rinsva. She's the star of this movie, and she's the star of The Worst Person in the World, which most people absolutely love. I just thought it was a really good movie, but her performance as like someone who's a very complicated character that you root for some points in the movie and then go like, oh my god, you're literally the worst person in the world at some points. So she's very good at giving this complicated performance that you still like following her.
Okay.
So if she's like the lead of this movie, she probably should be able to carry it pretty well. The one thing with that little blurb that has me worried when they're talking about this electric field that kind of like revives the dead, I hope it's not really like this social commentary on like our reliance on technology, you know, and that the undead is like a stand-in for these people that are just, you know, always on their phones, or, you know, oh, we're obsessed with social media, our screen time and whatnot. I hope it's not that sort of movie. I hope it is just a little bit more literal and actually just takes that premise like to its utmost conclusion, because I think it could be pretty cool.
I mean, like I said, I thought from the trailer it looked pretty good. It looks like it's gonna be kind of brutal too, so like a realist brutal. It seemed like you know, me or Jill may not be happy with it. That it looks like a lot of family pets are gonna get like brutally murdered, and
Ooh, okay, we got some cat death.
cat, dog, something death. I couldn't really tell from the trailer. A
Couldn't
lot
make
of
it out, yeah.
a lot of animal death, it seems, but it like
Wow.
you know, it seems that, you know, like most of these like kind of undead things, like, you know, didn't we learn from Pet Cemetery people? You don't want the dead to come back. So,
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
but you know what? Like, I don't know. Most people are probably familiar with like the American remake of Let the Right One In, but you know, the non-American one was fantastic. It was a sensation, really. Like, the book sold like crazy. So I'm very interested to see how this does. Especially where I feel like it's probably even still too early to say, but like Let the Right One In is kind of like a classic movie now.
Oh, I think so. I think you can definitely put that as like a mid-2000s kind of classic, you know, foreign language horror. Like if
Yeah.
you search up like, you know, popular horror in other languages other than English, Let the Right One In is gonna, you know, 100% be there. And I actually didn't even think that the American remake for that one was too terrible.
I
still
thought it
good.
was pretty good. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good choice, especially if it winds up being a Colton pick. You know, I'll be pretty excited that you brought this one to my attention. With that, let's go to something that I was hoping was gonna be a definite Colton pick, because I thought it was gonna be appealing to like my dinosaur kid inside of me. This is Out of Darkness, coming out February 9th. Its little blurb is, in the old Stone Age, a disparate gang of early humans band together in search of a new land. But when they suspect a malevolent mystical being is hunting them down, the clan are forced to confront a danger they never envisaged. And I'm kind of disappointed by this, because the poster, it's like kind of someone silhouetted coming into a cave, but if you kind of pull out further, it kind of looks like almost like a dinosaur eye or a dragon eye or something like that. And just hearing the words prehistoric horror, I was like, damn it, I wish I thought of that, because once again, dinosaur kid, always looking to figure out how to get, more dinosaur movies out there. But this one, I don't know if it's going to wind up being dinosaurs. When I was watching it, I was more so getting like this monster vibe of maybe like, early Neanderthals or, an ancient human civilization or something like that. So I don't know if it's something I'm going to be super into now. You're not much of a dinosaur kid. I don't know what you thought of this one. Did you check out the trailer or anything?
Yeah, so I did watch the trailer for this one and read a little bit about it. It took me obviously, if you search Out of Darkness, it pops up. It also pops up because it had another title called The Origin.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah, so once I did my research on this, so this actually played at 2 festivals in 2022.
Yes, and now it's been held for like a year and a half, so that doesn't fill me with confidence.
Yeah, so
either.
I had that written down as I was like, I'm a little worried about this, but what I'm very interested in is I saw someone, can you trust it? I don't know. I saw on Letterboxd there was a couple reviews for it already, and from these festivals, and someone claimed that they actually invented an entire language for this film specifically.
Okay.
So
they were speaking.
In.
Yeah, they were speaking a different language that I couldn't place. Not that I'm a linguist or anything, anyways, but it did sound different for sure. And I mean, adhering to subtitles as well, like a fully subtitled release and 2024. A lot of horror movies wouldn't have the balls to do that. So, at least props them for that.
I didn't see any dinosaur things in the poster. I wasn't reading the clues. But of course, I was kind of interested because I was like, okay, like a caveman survival horror. Like, I've never seen one of those. But yeah, I can't say the trailer necessarily filled me with hope. Because one thing I was really concerned about was, why do all of these cavemen and women have like perfectly manicured facial hair? They have like 5 o'clock shadows, goatees are going on in this, like freshly shaved goatees.
They got the fade on, a couple faux hawks there, just some
like,
dyed hair, maybe not that blatant, but I noticed as well. These people were looking way too like they've showered, within the past 24 hours, not, they shower once every 6 months,
Yeah, well, and that was kind of my thing, was I was just really worried that maybe this means that attention to detail was not necessarily taken care of with this one.
Produced by It Follows, Saint Maud, and It Comes at Night producers, though, so I don't know. Fingers crossed. They usually market movies like that when they're really desperate trying to get people in the seats, because obviously we love It Follows around this part. I know for sure I'm a lover of Saint Maud, and It Comes at Night, even though it wasn't at all what I expected.
I did enjoy that too. And another... the year of first-time directors, another first-time director. So, I mean, I guess we can't shit on them too quickly.
Well, you want to take the next one? We got another first-time director, well, feature debut director at least, coming up here February 9th as well.
Yeah, so February 9th, we have one I'm personally super excited for, which is Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams, who is Robin Williams' daughter. And this seems like it's right in my wheelhouse. Basically, the synopsis is, in 1989, a misunderstood teenager has a high school crush who just happens to be a handsome corpse. After a set of playfully horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a murderous journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts along the way.
This one is hard for me to get excited for because it looks so similar to another kind of like romantic comedy horror movie from a few years ago called Warm Bodies.
Yes,
starring Nicholas Hoult.
Which
I watched this. I watched this and I was like, did I see this already?
I'm very interested. I mean, obviously, I think most people are going to be super interested to see Robin Williams' daughter directing a film. I feel like that's going to bring an audience automatically to this.
For sure, just curiosity, right? She's directed a couple of shorts, Shrimp and Kappa Kappa Die, apparently. But I mean, this is obviously a significant jump to a full feature, right?
Yeah, and I think, we got Cole Sprouse from, or Sprouse, I guess.
Sprouse, yeah.
From
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. You big fan of that? Or?
I've never seen that. I know Jughead from Riverdale.
Ah, gotcha.
I'm a big Riverdale fan because I'm a piece of trash. So I was always excited to see him. And then, Catherine Newton, who I feel like if you don't like her, you're not escaping her in 2024.
When I saw her name, I was like, oh, I like Catherine Newton. Then I kind of looked back through her credits over the past couple of years, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't like Catherine Newton. I'm not, I can't come out there and just, give a full-throated, praise of Catherine Newton. Freaky was all right, but man, Ant-Man Quantumania, oof, that's a tough one.
What about that Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Knife?
Oh my God, was she just in that? Did I already forget that?
She was in that.
God.
Yes.
Oof. All right. I already forgot. I forgot about that. I don't even want to talk about It's a Wonderful Knife.
Yeah, of course.
But I feel like we're overlooking something pretty big with this movie, though. It's written by Diablo Cody, which I thought would have been the very first thing you would have brought up.
I had it coming. I had it in the come up. But yeah, no, I think that'll be a big thing. I mean, I know on the podcast, at least some of us are huge Jennifer's Body people. I love Jennifer's Body. I remember Juno. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I remember the moment that was Juno. So I'm always interested, as especially Diablo Cody's kind of the way she writes. She was younger when Juno came out, and it was relatable to people around my age at the time. So I'm always interested when people like that continue to kind of write towards a younger audience, because this is definitely aimed at a YA audience. Like you said, it's like this comedy romance, horror romp. So I'm interested to see, does she still have it? Is she still speaking to the young people, or is this going to be a total miss where we're you need to start writing adult movies now?
Yeah, I guess we'll see on February 9th. I assume this will be another one that's coming out everywhere. We'll definitely be covering on the show. So
yeah.
Next up is Baghead, which is coming out February 22nd. This was one of those that kind of hearing about it and leading up to it, I thought would very much be my vibe. But after watching kind of the trailer and whatnot, I'm not so sure anymore. The story for this one is following the death of her estranged father. Iris learns she has inherited a rundown, centuries-old pub. She travels to Berlin to identify her father's body and meet with the solicitor to discuss the estate. Little does she know, when the deed is signed, she will become inextricably tied to an unspeakable entity that resides in the pub's basement. Baghead, a shape-shifting creature that can transform into the dead. This is another one that they're marketing it based on the strength of a single producer. It's very big in the trailer. It says producer of It and Barbarian, and of course, you hear these names, you're like, oh yeah, let's go. But I kind of felt like it felt a little bit derivative. The trailer overall, it was like a combination of Barbarian, having this hidden chamber in the basement that this creature is kind of lurking in, and Talk to Me with the more casual approach to communing with the dead. There being this strict time limit that you can't, go longer than 2 minutes in this. I think it's 90 seconds and Talk to Me. It was just, I don't know, it just seemed like something that I've seen before.
I had the exact same feeling. I thought, I did look at the trailer also, and I thought this was one of those times, that maybe less would have been more, where even if it, I go see it and we're disappointed and same thing. If it had been a trailer where I don't really know what it's about, it seems mysterious and odd, then, maybe I would be interested. I'm interested to see how this goes, because this stars Freya Allen, who I feel is on her way to have a pretty large year. She's from The Witcher.
Yeah.
She's the star of the new Planet of the Apes film coming out.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So, I'm imagining that they're probably thinking, all right, we're going to get a little push from her being in that coming out. And then this is where Bryce McGuire is popping up again. So
what did he do in this?
He co-wrote this.
Okay.
Because he is a writer. That's kind of his jam. He just happens to be directing Night Swim. So he is normally a writer. I think I'd also read that I think he did some sort of edits to Megan or something. I'd read an article on him, but I didn't see it in his Letterboxd or his IMDb or anything. So I don't know if he was ghostwriting or what he was doing, but I don't know. I'm kind of like you. Like I said, to me, this almost kind of looked like a straight to video type deal. I was like, I can't really see this getting, like, I can't imagine it being a wide release, really. I mean, I'm sure maybe it is, but I don't know how big it'll be. I was gonna say, it did make me wonder, though, Ireland. Are we in, like, an Ireland revival right now? Like, all these movies just...
Wait, is this set in Ireland? I have written down Berlin.
Oh, I thought it was Ireland.
Oh my God. Well,
I guess maybe it is Berlin. Maybe it is Berlin.
I mean, to be fair, like the pub setting and whatnot would feel very Irish, especially with, I think they describe the entity in the basement as like a witch as well. So there's like that folklore component to it. I mean,
maybe there's something, I feel like maybe there was something else in our list that's also in Ireland. So maybe I was thinking of something else.
Maybe, yeah. It kind of commits a sin as well of the trailer where they already showed Baghead so much that like I'm already not scared of Baghead. And they also do the Hereditary of crawling across the ceiling a few times, which I don't know. I love Hereditary, or at least think it's great. But it's just like, man, I feel like every horror movie now since 2018, if there's like a possessed person in it, they have to crawl across the ceiling in the background. So it's just, I don't know. It's already feels a little bit overwrought to me. And also, since Baghead is shape-shifting and the main character, obviously is there to see her father, this movie's going to obviously end with Baghead taking the form of her father and having some sort of faux reconciliation, right? Like, I mean, it's really the only ending to this. Hopefully I'm wrong, but, I guess we'll see probably sometime in February. Next thing on my list is a big one coming up in March.
Yeah, so March 8th, we have Imaginary. If you're playing a drinking game with us, I guess, like, have a shot at tequila every time a Blumhouse movie comes, and you might get a decent buzz. So the synopsis for this one is, when Jessica returns to her childhood home with her family, she finds her old stuffed bear Chauncey and sees that her stepdaughter Alice has grown attached to it. After Alice's behavior becomes concerning and the games that she and Chauncey play turn increasingly sinister, Jessica starts realizing that Chauncey is much more than the stuffed bear she believed him to be for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Jeff Wadlow, who gave me the cinematic masterpiece Fantasy Island from Blumhouse.
Oh, it's not him again, is it?
It is him.
Oh,
Fantasy Island was so bad.
Yeah.
We never covered it. Although I will say, I did think someday I'd love to just be an asshole and pick it. Because I remember being in the theater seeing Fantasy Island, the only one in the theater because it was during COVID, and making workers stay till 1 o'clock in the morning so that I could watch Fantasy Island, and immediately regretting it. But he did do Truth or Dare also, which I saw a long time ago, but I know kind of has like a little mini cult following. They seem to release it on Blu-ray every Halloween. Like, they put out a different edition of it. And then I know kind of his bigger movie was Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah.
So, which I don't think I ever saw.
I think it just completely killed the Kick-Ass series if there was ever going to be a Kick-Ass 3. So I don't know if that's great. This is funny because I actually failed to look at the director for this one, so I was like, oh, I kind of like the premise. Obviously, I like in the trailer where they're playing these different games. It reminds me of there was like that internet creepy thing from a few years ago. I think it was called like MoMA or something. That was like an online version of this where it sparked a lot of like false articles of where kids were playing these increasingly dangerous games until the last one was like kill yourself. So that was kind of similar. Like, when I was watching this, I was like, oh, this is going to end with her having to do something pretty drastic, in which they show in the trailer, her, impaling her hand on a nail or whatnot. But this kind of imaginary friend framing is obviously, it's ripe for horror. I'm actually surprised that it took so long to kind of get like this stuffed animal as the imaginary friend, like a teddy bear or something like that. Obviously, we've seen this creepy kid trope with an imaginary friend, usually some sort of demonic entity, numerous times, especially like in the Paranormal Activity movies, or there's probably a subplot in the Insidious ones about it as well. But it was just something like, I was like, okay, I was kind of looking forward to this. I wanted to see like weird demonic teddy bear stuff. And then it seemed the way the trailer goes, it winds up being just more like corporeal, like human form, similar to stuff that's in the Further and Insidious and stuff. And I was like, the longer this trailer goes on, the more and more I'm out on it. It might wind up being good, but it was just kind of like, you lost me. I was there for the first minute, and then after that, I was kind of already glazed over. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like in the theaters. Also, strange that this is coming out in March because there's another movie called If Imaginary Friends.
Yeah, I saw that. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, directed by John Krasinski. He decided not to direct, the next Quiet Place movie because he wanted to direct Ifs. So, we'll get to the Quiet Place movie a little bit later on our list. But it was just literally like, weird that these two imaginary friend forward movies are coming out within the run of probably 2 or 3 months from one another.
I mean, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm kind of in for it because you know what? I doubted Blumhouse with Megan. I remember Megan coming and I'm like, this looks stupid. Am I wavering a little bit because of the director? Probably. I'm a little worried there.
You should be.
Yeah. But you know what? It's like I said, this is where my Blumhouse brony comes in. And I'm like, you know what, Blumhouse? You want to feed me imaginary friends and swimming pools. Like, I'm kind of on board for Blumhouse, kind of being like the Stephen King of the film world, where it's like, we're just going to take every object and thing we can think of and turn it into a horror movie and see what happens.
I still think Stephen King at his most, like, coke-addled, can't write. He probably still wrote stuff better than some of these Blumhouse movies. So hopefully, Imaginary proves me wrong.
I did see a very thin dinosaur connection for you of DeWanda Wise, the star, who was the star of Jurassic World Dominion.
That doesn't fill me with hope either. That movie was awful. It was so bad.
So that kind of also worried me. Not, we couldn't get like just one person. I was like, oh yeah, that person. Tom Payne's in it, and I had to look up where I recognized him from. He managed to make it in to a season of The Walking Dead that I actually saw. So He plays Jesus in The Walking Dead.
Excellent.
So yeah, that, you know what? I'll go in with optimism, but deep down, I feel like Colton. I'm probably not that excited.
Well, we can figure out now if we're excited for The First Omen coming out April 5th. This one is when a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church. She encounters a darkness that causes her to question her own faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of evil incarnate. Rowan, I don't know if we've ever talked about The Omen really on the podcast.
No.
Are you an Omen fan? Have you seen any of these movies?
It has been a long time since I have seen The Omen, which is a shame. I'm sitting here. I went out first day. I bought that nice, fancy, expensive Scream Factory box set, all the Omen movies.
Why am I not surprised?
And, like Rowan, just never haven't opened it, haven't looked at it yet. Obviously a little older than both of us, like the old Omen movie. I remember the Omen remake. I remember seeing that in the theater. And for some reason, I kind of remember liking it when I was younger, like in the theater. But I feel like when I did see the original, I thought it was okay. Obviously, kind of those old classic horror films, like, I go to The Exorcist far more than I obviously go to The Omen. So,
absolutely.
What about you? Omen guy or?
I think I've seen the original Omen way back in the day, but this was the sort of thing where when I was in like grade 8, 9, 10, 11, I was seeking out horror movies that were more so like possession, demonic movies, because for me, especially from a religious upbringing, those were the movies that felt like the scariest to me and the most like, hey, maybe something like this could happen. So I remember specifically watching the Omen remake at the time, either with a couple of friends or my girlfriend at the time or something like that. So I don't remember paying too much attention to it. Like, we were probably talking or laughing or whatever over the movie, and I feel like I watched the original Omen shortly thereafter and found it incredibly boring because once again I was probably 13 or 14 right, watching this movie. So really I should go back and rewatch the Omen movies because their sensibilities of obviously being like religious horror kind of would resonate with me. Obviously something like I've mentioned, like Saint Maud or The Lodge or something like that, like I probably would get something out of it. But I do kind of agree with you that why would you go back to the original Omen when you have The Exorcist right there? Like I would say 9 people out of 10 are gonna go see The Exorcist if you're looking for the religious horror from that similar time period. This one was a little bit strange to me. I couldn't really find a trailer or anything for it yet. I don't feel like there's a whole lot to go off of other than Ralph Ineson and Bill Nighy are in the movie, which is like, I love Ralph Ineson, from The Witch, and, he has a great voice, but it's like, I don't know if that's enough to get me excited about the movie. And then the director, Akasha Stevenson, I've seen some of her work. I didn't really know her at the time. Like, I watched a couple episodes of season 3 of Channel Zero, the Butcher's Block season, and I remember enjoying the first couple episodes. It's just, as I may or may not have mentioned numerous times on the show, I just suck at watching TV. I start so many things that I like, and I just never get around to it. So I did enjoy what I saw from that, and I know that she also directed an episode or two of Brand New, Cherry Flavor, and Legion, 2 shows that obviously have pretty favorable reviews, but I also haven't checked out.
I love Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I really, really like that show. So I saw that she was doing this. I'm excited because I am a massive Channel Zero fan. So,
oh, neat. I don't know if I knew that. I haven't seen all of them, so.
Yeah, Butcher's Block, I actually thought Butcher's Block was one of the weaker ones, but I still thought it was better than half of the television I've ever watched, so that doesn't say much.
Fair enough. You mentioned you're a big Channel Zero fan. I also know you're a big Universal Monsters fan. So, want to take the next one here?
Yeah, so we have Untitled Radio Silence film. So obviously, if you're unfamiliar, Radio Silence brought us, our Scream, our new Scream.
5 and 6.
Is it a trilogy? Is it not a trilogy? Not by them, at least.
Not the newest one. No, they jumped ship.
That's right.
Universal Monsters movie.
But they did 5, 6, Ready or Not, Southbound, which I love. I'm surprised we haven't done that on the main show yet because I really, really like that one. But we do have a synopsis for it, which is: a young girl is abducted from her Boston brownstone in order to extract a ransom from her wealthy, shadowy father. But what seemed like a straightforward kidnapping turns out to be far more complicated than her captors could have imagined.
What are we thinking as a Universal Monster movie? What jumps out to you in that synopsis to think?
Nothing in that.
Monster?
So I did some Variety article readings and stuff like that. Apparently they're basing this off of a story called Dracula's Daughter.
So the only thing that even remotely leapt out to me is that I think it has to be Dracula, just based off of the wealth and shadowy father. Whereas, something to do with vampires or Dracula. So that's interesting you say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for anything, obviously they're pretty hush-hush on this one. I probably would be too, when you put out Tom Cruise's The Mummy. So you don't want any bad juju going on. But, I announced I kind of came around on Melissa Barrera recently.
I'm still a hater, I have to say.
I know.
It's just her acting, in my opinion, is awful. I hope she wins me over at some point. I'm a big fan of Dan Stevens, at least.
Yeah, Dan Stevens, obviously massive for that. I did read that apparently Melissa Barrera is supposed to play one of the kidnappers in this. So she's going to be a villain in this. And I'm kind of interested to see how this goes, because obviously, Melissa Barrera has made the news because she was dropped from Scream. So I was very curious how Universal was gonna handle this. I'm curious if, I'm just curious what they're gonna do with this film. Obviously, it's already made, but
it's not actually.
Oh no, they haven't.
That's the thing. When I looked into this, I don't believe this is gonna hit April 19th at all. But essentially, from what I saw, they had about half of it filmed before the SAG-AFTRA strike affected it in July. So everything I could see, couldn't find anything that it's gone back to start filming again. Maybe it has, and it's just not reported. I do know, obviously, Angus Cloud is no longer with us, but they did wind up filming whatever they needed from him before the movie was halted. So who knows where this is? I assume they're gonna finish it because it's at least half done. It could even actually be done. It's just not reported. But yeah, this is a strange one to me that I'm looking forward to it. I would be shocked if it could be as good as The Invisible Man from a couple of years ago, which you mentioned The Mummy, but when I think of the new Universal Monsters, I prefer to think of The Invisible Man.
I've got faith in Radio Silence, and like I said, I hope Melissa Barrera stays on it. I would kind of assume, because it kind of seems like, that's like Radio Silence's girl now. Like, it seems that they enjoy working with her, and obviously she's left Scream, they've left Scream, so it seems like this.
I don't think we have to be concerned. She's not going anywhere on this. I don't think.
Whether that's good for Colton or not, we'll find out.
Hey, we'll see. Like I said, I hope she wins me over. Wish nothing, but the best for her. Her comments do not upset me in any way. So hopefully she'll, win me over with this one. And the next thing I guess we'll get to is this is an interesting one because this is Return to Silent Hill, coming out April 26th, supposedly. And obviously we reviewed the original Silent Hill on the main show within the past year or two. So this is interesting. That it's literally, from what I understand, it's the actual creative team. Christoph Gans coming back. A lot of the people involved with the original film are just coming back once again. And the little synopsis that's out there, if you're fans of the games, you'll probably you'll know what they're referencing here. When a mysterious letter calls him back to Silent Hill in search of his lost love, James finds a once recognizable town and encounters terrifying figures, both familiar and new, and begins to question his own sanity. So, Rowan, I can't remember. I haven't really played the Silent Hill games. I've played them a little bit. I've watched people play them, but I've never seen one through to completion. But this story is so obviously an adaptation of Silent Hill 2, which is basically the one. It's what everybody loves in the franchise. That I'm interested to see how this works. I'm wondering if it's going to be a hit or not, because Christoph Gans, we liked a lot about what that movie he was doing, especially visually. So I'm curious to see how this goes.
Anybody that listened to our Silent Hill episode might remember that was my first time ever seeing Silent Hill, and I can't remember if I yayed or slayed it, but I really
gave it a yay. I searched it up.
Yeah, I really liked it, and so I'm really excited for Christoph Gans, whatever. To come back to this. Now, I never did see the second film. I don't think he did that one. That was someone else.
No, and I saw it at some point. But it's like you don't have to watch it, obviously.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what he does with this. Obviously, everything I've read that the game company has kept this franchise pretty much in their control. So it's very interesting that he is their guy. They want him to come back. Obviously, the first one was super successful, so, why not? I did see it co-stars Hannah Anderson, who I am a fan of because I was a big fan of the Purge television show, which... I always argue maybe better than any of the movies, but she was one of the stars of season 1, and she was the highlight of season 1, so I was pretty excited to see her, do something else in the horror realm.
Curious to see if she's James's wife in this, because if she is... She's not featured too much, at least if it's a straight up adaptation of the game.
I've never played it, so
yeah. Well, I'll stay vague on that because it could make for some really good twists and turns if it's a straight up adaptation. And Christoph Gans has been out of the game for a long time. Last thing he did was Beauty and the Beast in 2014, and then before that it was literally Silent Hill in 2006. So obviously the guy wants to come back. He needs some work. Hopefully he's been looking to make this for a long time, and it should be a strong adaptation, at least the source material is. Yeah. So hopefully it turns out great.
So with that, we're going to stroll into June 7th. So, we're almost getting done school time here, getting ready to study for exams.
I like that's still how you measure the year. Final exams are coming up.
And we have The Watchers, which is the debut film from Ishana Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
So the synopsis is as follows. A 28-year-old artist, Mina, gets stranded in an expansive, untouched forest in Western Ireland. Oh,
that's the Ireland.
There we go.
Yeah, that's what you were thinking of.
Upon finding shelter, she unknowingly becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers who are watched and stalked by mysterious creatures each night. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and guess that they're just in a compound and the rest of the world is existing around them. So,
oh, you're calling the Village twist, are you? This is part of the Village cinematic universe.
The Village Part 2.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'm very curious about this because obviously I think everyone's just wondering, is Shauna going to be up to the same tricks as her father in her films?
There's multiple questions with this because it's also like, is she actually a good director or is she just a Nepo baby, right? Like, I understand that she's directed a few episodes of Servant, but if you look at her filmography outside of that, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's any shorts. There's no other features. There's nothing. So this is something where if this hits, everyone will basically be like, okay, never mind. She has talent. She earned it. It's great. But if it doesn't hit, I don't know if it's going to be too good for Ashana. I feel like she might just be stuck working for her dad for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it would make the most. I mean, I feel like a daughter, a father that big and what he's known for. Like, I feel like she's got a zag, right? She can't do the twist ending.
She has to do her own thing.
Yeah, you got to kind of make it your thing. But I mean, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good cast. Georgina Campbell from Barbarian, also Hang the DJ, which was like an amazing episode of Black Mirror, and Dakota Fanning.
Which I haven't seen her in a lot recently, but I do have like good memories of Dakota Fanning at some point in her career. I just think in more recent years I've been more of an Elle Fanning fan. So
yeah, Dakota's good. I mean, what? I guess Equalizer 3 was like her last kind of
okay, was she
thing.
in that? All right.
Yeah, it was like the return of Denzel and Dakota, man.
Man on fire. Nice.
Man on fire. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about this because I mean, obviously I've been on record. I'm really not a M. Night fan. So, maybe his daughter can win me over and I won't besiege the family name anymore.
Yeah, I'll try and not put too much M. Night hate on Ishana because hopefully, like I said, she kind of strikes off and does her own thing. I will say that the premise to me, I do actually like the idea of it because for me, the feeling of being watched is one of like the most primal fears to me. Just like that feeling of being watched when there's no real rationale or explanation behind it. I really hate that feeling, and I feel like it's incredibly hard to capture on camera. I think probably the most competent film that did in recent years was Watcher, that starred Micah Monroe. I thought that one did a pretty good job of it, but outside of that, it's like oftentimes just the feeling of being watched doesn't make for the most interesting movie. So I'm interested to see how The Watchers, a movie that should be largely about being watched, is going to play out in June. Something I'm also looking forward to in June is A Quiet Place Day 1, which comes out June 28th. We've already name-dropped it earlier because John Krasinski was like, you know what? A prequel series or a prequel movie set in the Quiet Place world. Not interested in doing that. He has to do this big purple imaginary friends monster movie instead. So I don't know what to think of this one. Very, very scant details on it. It literally just says a prequel detailing the origin of the creatures in A Quiet Place, which, as we all know, what everybody wants to know about monsters is an extensive backstory where we understand everything about them to ensure they are never scary ever again.
The first note I have is like, I already know this is just going to make a shit ton of money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The first one, just sensation. The second one made money. I like the first one a lot, actually. I liked the second one. I wasn't as big of a fan of it as I was the first. Kind of like you, I'm not really looking forward to finding out everything about, these alien creatures or whatever.
Yeah.
To make them less scary. The cast has me interested. At
Lupita
least
Nyong'o and Jimon Hansu.
Yeah. Joseph Quinn just coming off his dominating year as Eddie from Stranger Things 4.
No.
And this is going to be...
I didn't watch it.
This is going to be a big year. Joseph Quinn, not only in this Quiet Place movie this year, but also Gladiator 2. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So big year for him. But yeah, and also I've never seen Pig, which Michael Saransky directed. Apparently John Krasinski only letting people with the last letters SKI direct Quiet Place films.
Wow, that's a good pull there. I have seen Pig. I thought it was good. A lot of people absolutely love and adore that movie. Not me. Like, once again, I don't hate it or anything. It's just I just thought it was good, and I really don't know how that translates over to a Quiet Place movie. It must be a lot more restricted, stripped down character piece. But then also, if that's what it's about, why is it a prequel detailing the origins of the creatures? You know, who knows? Maybe that's just placeholder synopsis. But yeah, it's this is a strange one to me. It had a lot of people like exit the project. A lot of people kind of come in and kind of give their pitch for it. And you know, Kransky's who we wound up with, or Saransky. I don't have his name in front of me, but you know, the director of Pig is who we wound up with. And yeah, I don't know what to think about this one. We're gonna have to see, I guess, in June.
So we're going to go to June 28th, and we have...
Same day.
Whether this is a wide release or not, I'm interested to see, like, a theater release.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie is called Horrorscope, which you think would be up my lane as someone who collects, like, 80s, 90s teen horror books. Apparently, this is based off of a 90s teen horror book. I've never heard of it, though.
Oh, I never knew that little detail. Okay.
But two directors on it, Spencer Cohen and Anna Hallberg, which
do we want to get into that right now, or do we want to do the little synopsis, or what do we want to do? Because there's a lot to say about those two.
Let's do the synopsis first, and then...
All right.
So the synopsis is as follows. After attending a horoscope party, people begin dying in ways connected to their zodiac signs. 4 friends must work together to solve the mystery before their numbers are up.
Kind of seems to me like Final Destination for Zoomers. You know,
yeah,
100%.
100%. That was my first note. And, you know, that's kind of on this line that I had, you know, I was thinking about. This could either be extremely fun and campy, which might not be good for you, but, you know, I think this could almost be like a Christopher Landon situation, or this could just be a total shit show and just... which, you know, I'm kind of leaning probably more towards.
I think I have to go shit show as well with this. As we were mentioning, the directors, Spencer Cohen and Anna Hallberg. It's literally Spencer Cohen is the writer of Moonfall and Expendables 4.
There we go.
Anna is the producer of Expendables 4. And that is basically what they're known for. And I you know, maybe we shouldn't always judge a book by its cover or by purely what they've done before. You know, obviously, you know, a famous example is Craig Mazin. Before he did Chernobyl, he was doing, you know, all the spoof movies and the Hangover sequels, right? So you can get someone great that has a less than great track record, but I don't know. This is the talent involved. The only name I even recognize is Jacob Batalon, who's like obviously Ned, I believe, in the new Spider-Man movies. And
someone with only one name, Vantika, who apparently
I don't know who that is.
Apparently, she is the star of the new Mean Girls musical coming out.
Okay. All right.
Which I also think looks terrible. So, yeah, I can't say I'm overly looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Safe to say that for sure. And then coming up later in the summer, we mentioned his daughter. I guess it's time to mention M. Night himself. He's coming out on August 2nd with Trap, which, you know, its plot right now is plot unknown, described as a psychological thriller set at a concert, which... all right. There's not a whole lot to go off of there. What I will say is that usually a downfall of most of M. Night's movies for me is his terrible dialogue. So hopefully, if it's set at a concert, be really loud. Maybe there's not a lot of dialogue. You know, I don't have to listen to this. Hopefully, he's just, you know, puts himself in the movie as just someone in the crowd. You know, there's a couple of different ways this can go that maybe doesn't wind up being as terrible as I could expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm celebrating this comeback of Josh Hartnett, and he is the star of this, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't have much to say about this. Obviously, we don't know much things, but as I stated before when talking about his daughter, I am not a very big M. Night Shyamalan fan, and I hated Knock at the Cabin.
And I liked Knock at the Cabin, and I'm still not very excited about this, so...
So I haven't liked a movie he's done since The Visit, and that's pretty much one of the only movies of his I actually enjoy. So yeah, I can't say I'm like overly excited about this. So maybe two stinkers in a row.
Yeah, how about we quickly move on then to Speak No Evil, which I think the original was a Danish film that you enjoyed, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I love this film. And if you, we're about like an hour or so into this. So if you got that tequila ready, take that shot, because this is produced by Blumhouse.
No, it's not.
It
no
is.
No way.
I checked out the letterbox. I don't know if they're fully releasing it. It is. They are a producer on it, though.
Oh, that makes me
Monsieur Jason Blum just getting his money in there. So the synopsis is as follow: a dream holiday and a beautiful country house becomes a psychological nightmare. I can't say I'm nervous. That's what I should say.
Yeah.
Because we pretty much know throughout history that American remakes of these foreign films never are as good as the original. I like James McAvoy, who is the star of this one, but, can he save an American remake? I'm not 100% sure. And then we have the director, James Watkins, who I've never seen Eden Lake, but I know is like people love Eden Lake.
Yeah, I saw it back when it first came out. I don't remember anything about it or his follow-up, The Woman in Black. I have seen both of them. I just don't remember them.
Yeah, I feel like The Woman in Black, everything I read about it was mostly negative on it.
Yeah.
But I do know he directed Shut Up and Dance from Black Mirror, which I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, and that's his most recent work as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's the one that's, closest to his directing capabilities now, because I also enjoyed Shut Up and Dance. So, fingers crossed for this. I haven't seen Speak No Evil. Yeah, I have to watch it. I know everyone says it's really twisted, and I had it like queued up on Shudder a couple of times to watch, and I don't know, something else dragged me away. I also like Mackenzie Davis from, a few different things I've seen her in.
Yeah.
So I have my fingers crossed for this, but I can't lie. When you just told me Blumhouse is producing this, from everything I've heard about this movie, it does not seem like something that should be produced by Blumhouse. So,
and like I said, it's made for an American audience. So I mean, the whole reason I think the Danish film kind of got legs was just like how brutal and soul sucking it was. And it's funny that, there's the Black Mirror connection with James Watkins, because I said my reaction to seeing Speak No Evil the first time was the same as seeing the first episode of Black Mirror for the first time, like the one with the pig and the guy, where I literally remember shutting Speak No Evil off and being like, fuck this movie, I hate this movie, because it was just so depressing, and I was just like, this is disgusting, and then like I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, I fucking love that movie now, and they're not gonna do that. It's gonna be something stupid.
Either way, I know for sure I'm going to be watching the Danish film first, before watching the American remake in August for sure.
A good pick for the normal podcast.
Yeah, maybe we'll fit that in somewhere throughout the year. Another movie coming out in August. This is a big one, I would say. Alien Romulus, August 16th. Currently, the little blurb out for it is, a group of young people on a distant world find themselves in a confrontation with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Directed by Fede Alvarez. I like the original Evil Dead. I'm a big fan of Don't Breathe. I think The Girl in the Spider's Web was pretty bad. So I'm iffy on this one. I don't think the Alien franchise has had a very good track record in recent years. I'm not a big fan of Covenant. Some people are. So I'm not really sure what to make of this one. I feel like this was kind of rushed into production to kind of stop, God, what's his name? The District 9 director, Neil Blomkamp. He had like a pitch for a new Alien movie, and I think this was kind of like, let's get this into production so we don't have to, hear this guy out. This is what it felt like to me.
Well, last I heard too, and maybe I'm wrong about it, but I think this might be a Hellraiser situation where I believe they are also working on a television show of Alien.
That is true, yeah. No, that's accurate.
Yeah,
I've heard that as well.
And see, I kind of thought I had read that Blomkamp has something to do with the television show now.
Oh, maybe he does. Yeah, the it could make sense, yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of the same. I mean, obviously, I'm a massive Alien fan. This is my franchise. Alien is I love it. I love the good. I love the bad. You know, like you said, like that Evil Dead remake, I really, really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the first Don't Breathe. I'm a little worried because this sounds like we're going teen horror route.
I think we are as well. A couple of concerning things where it says a group of young people. And then if you look at the cast, it's all very young cast, for sure.
Yeah,
now,
I'm not loving that.
Kaylee Spaney is part of the cast.
Yes.
And she was just in Priscilla. And
she was fantastic
in that movie. So, you know, maybe this young cast of a lot of people I don't recognize, maybe by the time this movie comes around, I will know them, or this will kind of, you know, let me know who they are in a big way. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about this as well. Did you check out the writer of this movie?
No, I didn't.
So Fede Alvarez is obviously he's co-writing it, but Rodo Saigues is also writing it, who he wrote Don't Breathe 2.
Oof.
And provided the story for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie from a year or two ago. And he's the one who's mostly writing this movie.
You're just breaking my heart.
Yeah, it's the type of thing where, once again, I don't necessarily want to judge people purely based on their previous work, but that's kind of what we're doing here. And I don't know if the guy who wrote Don't Breathe 2 and that Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from a couple of years ago is necessarily the right guy to execute an Alien film. I understand how that new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously, it was hip with the kids, you know, had a bunch of children in it and whatnot, or teenagers, but I don't know. I'm worried about this one.
You know, Alien's so good because even when it's schlocky, it's like this sci-fi horror schlock where like teen slasher schlock is a totally different vibe, which I feel like they're gonna aim towards. Yeah, just nothing. I feel like nothing good is could possibly come from this. I'm worried. This episode is just gonna be subtitled I'm worried.
I'm worried.
So yeah, now we are getting into September. September 6th. This is a big one. Beetlejuice 2. Can you guess who it's directed by? Obviously, Tim Burton.
I feel like I've been hearing about this one for years and years and years.
I mean, this is the one time I feel like, you know, when your mom or whoever shares like fake movie posters on Facebook and they're like, oh, this movie's coming out.
Yeah.
This is like the one time it worked where everyone shared it and then Tim Burton was like, well, I guess because I'm on Facebook. I saw people want this. There's no real synopsis out about it. They're pretty tight-lipped. I think we understand it's obviously going to be about Lydia Deet's kid. Jenna Ortega they've already announced playing Winona Ryder's kid. Obviously, you know, we have Michael Keaton returning as Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder is returning. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I think this is a terrible idea. Like, I am not looking forward to this whatsoever. I probably out of any movie.
Actually?
Yeah. Beetlejuice is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love Beetlejuice, and you know what? I love Beetlejuice, the animated television show also. That was fantastic. But this is like, this wasn't needed, you know. The first movie doesn't really warrant a second movie. And I think like most people, I just don't have any faith in Tim Burton anymore.
You weren't a big fan of Dumbo?
No, I'm going to pass on the Dumbo fandom. Yeah, like I just, you know, I think it's a shame because I mean, Tim Burton's brought some of my favorite childhood movies and teen movies, but I don't know. He seems like such a hack to me now that
he's kind of lost it a little bit. I think the last good thing he did was Big Eyes, I think, which was almost like not at all what he's been basically doing. Yeah. I feel like that was in like 2013, 2014. So yeah, I think he's lost it a little bit as well. My biggest disappointment with this movie is I think it should have been called Beetlejuice.
Oh shit! I like it.
I should be in the marketing department, you know. Other than that, I actually haven't seen the original Beetlejuice, so I don't care at all about Beetlejuice 2. Obviously, I will see the original before it comes out, the sequel. I do really like Willem Dafoe, who's being added to the cast. Jenna Ortega, I think she's excellent. What I will say is I think she might have to get a new agent. I don't know if you've seen that trailer for the new movie Miller's Girl.
No.
She's starring in with Martin Freeman, and it's kind of like a horny teacher-student relationship, like faux thriller. It begins with a trigger warning, a content warning right at the beginning of the trailer. I don't know what she's doing there. So hopefully Beetlejuice 2 is better than that Miller's Girl trailer, because that was just concerning. So yeah, we'll check that out in September. The next thing up here is Cuckoo, which I never really knew too much about going into this, but now I am looking forward to it. This is an A24 release coming out September 24th, and it's kind of primed for like TIFF season, so I might get to see this a couple of weeks before everybody else. The synopsis is as follows. Chased by a mysterious woman, 17-year-old Gretchen, who just moved with her family to an alpine resort after her mother's death, must uncover a conspiracy to save herself and her sister. Pretty vague, but probably the main reason people are looking forward to this is that it stars Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. So, I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing both of them kind of act in this A24 horror movie.
Dan Stevens just eating off horror movies.
I feel like he's on 3 or 4 of these that we've listed so far.
I mean, I'm loving it for him. Because wasn't he in one of those like old-timey TV shows or something? What was the big one that I'm...
Oh, Downton Abbey?
Downton Abbey, yeah. That's like his... So I love that he's just done this switch. Like, no, I'm just going to be a guy that does horror movies. I mean, I'm interested in this from the synopsis, and A24 usually even if I don't overly like it, I find like A24 like it's still pretty good, even if it's not like a sleigh. They usually have good taste in terms of picks.
I'm sure at the very least it'll be interesting, either in the regard of like, hey, this is actually a good A24 movie, or interesting in the fact of like, God, that was so dreadfully boring. So, we'll have something to talk about regardless. I haven't seen the director's previous work, Tillman Singer. He did a movie called Luz, which I recognize the poster for, and I've seen people give it positive reviews. I still haven't checked it out, so it might be something I check out before I check out Cuckoo in September.
Well, let's go to September 27th. Speaking of original ideas that have never been done before.
Absolutely.
And we have Saw 11.
I mean, it might be original for a horror franchise to get to 11 iterations. Like that is pretty up there,
It might overtake some of the big guys very soon. So
stop the count.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. No director attached to it. I'm interested to see if Kevin Grudert will be invited back, since it seems like Saw X was pretty loved, like critically and financially.
Yeah, I feel like he will be back, but he's doing like that kind of little song and dance where he's like playing hard to get. Like, oh, well, I might have some other, projects set up and whatnot. I think he's waiting for them to back up the dump truck of money, I think is what he's doing.
Yeah, back up the Brinks truck. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's no synopsis other than it's going to take place between 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's a direct follow-up to Saw X for Socks. So yeah, that's where that one took place as well. So,
and I don't know. I don't overly have any thoughts. I'm just mid on the Saw franchise. I know everyone loves Amanda. I feel like we're gonna start getting into like more Amanda backstory territory.
I certainly don't want that.
Neither do I. I don't really care about her. But I mean, I guess we got to be realistic, because, Tobin Bell is 81. So at some point, the inevitable, you won't have Tobin Bell. And from what I've read, they haven't even confirmed Tobin Bell for this yet.
Yeah, to be fair, this one is like, obviously, I think they were kind of surprised with the success of Saw X.
Yeah.
So I think it's just literally, they're trying to figure it all out. They're trying to hit that September release date. They're going to have to get this going pretty soon. We're going to have some directors announcements and casting announcements within the next month in order for this to make the September release date, especially especially with those movies having all of the contraptions and traps and all the blood and gore that it needs. Like, they got to get moving on this pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of similar to yourself. There's a couple of good Saw movies. I do think Saw X is one of them, so I'm cautiously optimistic, but just with basically nothing really to go on other than a title and a release date, this one obviously can go either way. So, and similar to how everybody enjoyed Saw X, I feel like everybody a couple of years ago, they loved Smile as well, and that's the next thing we have to discuss, which is Smile 2, coming out October 18th. Its synopsis, quite simply, is a sequel to 2022's Smile. Unlike Saw 11, this one is confirmed to have the original writer and director Parker Finn returning, so that's, in my books, that's a good thing. I was a little bit cooler on Smile than I feel like everybody else in the world. I remember people were loving this movie, kind of like heralding it as like such a good representation of mental health and horror, where I was just like, I felt a little bit more like I've seen some of it before, and a lot of like the crazy jump scare stuff didn't work for me, but I mean, I'm still cautiously optimistic about Smile 2.
Yeah, I felt I was kind of the same with you. Like, I thought it was fine. The first one, obviously, I think when we talked about it, we talked about that we felt it just pulled from a lot of other famous horror movies.
Yeah, and I think it was also like the trauma sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was probably the beginning of like every single horror movie that's getting positive praise just being about trauma. Trying to elevate it above just a basic horror movie.
But I'm interested to see what they do with it. I know I saw Parker Finn did an interview and basically said that they had no plans to do a sequel or had anything written. So I take it they did back up the Brinks truck. I did see that they've said it's going to be a totally new cast. It's going to be a totally different story. So apparently the idea is it's still going to be this entity, but it's going to be all new people.
Yeah, which is, it kind of makes sense. Through the like Naomi Scott casting announcement and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this could hold up to sequels because, people smiling creepy is always kind of creepy. So,
absolutely.
Let's do more of the fun marketing campaign where people are just smiling weirdly in basketball games I'm watching at TV. And that was always a fun time.
That's what we definitely need, for sure.
So then December 25th.
No, not December 25th.
Oh, sorry, October 25th. I'm skipping here. Yes, October 25th. We have The Wolfman. Directed by Lee Whannell, who you may know as the creator of Saw, did The Invisible Man. Insidious 3 is also, those are two movies he directed. And the synopsis is...
Wait. You skipped Upgrade.
Upgrade. Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
Dude, Upgrade is
I've never
excellent.
seen Upgrade, so...
It's excellent. It's so good. Anyways, go on with the little synopsis.
So the synopsis is as follows. I don't have one. I just have a question mark. It's about the Wolfman.
A man and his family are terrorized by a lethal predator.
So I did see that, but I was curious if that was going to be it, because that was the synopsis they put out when this was a totally different movie. So
I think just still thematically it'll work. Will it be as, blatant as Ryan Gosling being the Wolfman, or will it be Ryan Gosling as like an alcoholic with,
God damn, we need Ryan Gosling.
Who knows? But I feel like that little synopsis, it could be anything,
Yeah.
that like it'll probably still work.
I'm very sad that Ryan Gosling is not in this film anymore.
No way. He exited?
Yes, he did exit from this.
Oh my God. Everything I read about this is a lie.
Yeah, I didn't even write. They already casted some guy. I didn't recognize the name. I feel like he's like a teen guy.
Oh, stand by. I got to Google this.
Oh yeah. So we'll stand by. I'll eat up the airspace for the listeners. Where I was just going to say that since he dropped out, I was a little less interested. And like we kind of said with the Radio Silence Universal stuff, I'm optimistic, but cautiously optimistic. Obviously, everyone loved The Invisible Man. I never saw The Invisible Man.
Oh, dude, you got to see The Invisible Man.
I own it. I've never watched it. I like Lee Whannell. Like, I think he's a great writer. And I don't have any real thoughts on Insidious 3 in terms of directing, but as always, you got to be cautious with Universal. They gave us Last Voyage of the Demeter, and that wasn't great.
I think with this one, we can be excited about it. I Googled it. It's not Ryan Gosling. It's Christopher Abbott, who is still actually a really good actor. I don't know if you've seen Sanctuary, but you watched Fair Play the other night, which is kind of like a sexy thriller, which Sanctuary is very much the same way. I think it stars Christopher Abbott and Margaret Qualley. Definitely worth your time checking out. Is he a Ryan Gosling? No, obviously he's very different. So, but it can still work. I love Leigh Whannell, what he's been doing with directing. We're gonna forget about Insidious 3 because I just purely don't remember it, but Upgrade, like, no joke, excellent sci-fi action, kind of gory horror movie. It's not really horror, but like sci-fi action. It's excellent, crazy camera work, so worth your time. And then The Invisible Man, I think I watched it the same day as I watched Fantasy Island. So I will say, in my memory,
it's the inferior one. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Far worse than Fantasy Island. No, in my head, I think I remember giving it just like a 3.5, but like in my heart, it feels like a much better movie than that. Like he knows how to elevate kind of this Universal monsters tag. It's not like The Mummy or something, right? He takes what's interesting about these characters and he kind of modernizes it or puts a twist on it. So that's why I'm saying with the Wolfman, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there's like lycanthropy in the movie, but I'm thinking that there's probably going to be some sort of twist to this. And you don't cast Christopher Abbott unless you want someone who's really good with like insular character work, because that's kind of what he's known for in the few indie movies I've seen him in. And next on our list, also coming out October 25th, I kind of wish it was coming out a little bit later for what it is, but it's Terrifier 3. After the bloody events of Terrifier 2, Art the Clown once again returns to Miles County to unleash chaos on the unsuspecting residents of the town as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. So it seems like a shoe-in for future It Slays holiday special coverage, maybe in 2025 or something. But yeah, this is the next sequel to the Terrifier franchise. I feel like I'm one of the few people that thought Terrifier 1 was far superior than Terrifier 2. And that I'm kind of nervous about how much this guy has probably just like a blank check now to do what he wants after the success of Terrifier 2. But who knows? Maybe it'll wind up being good. At the very least, I'm interested in seeing a Christmas horror slasher, another one. We need more of those.
To me, this, even at what I think could be its worst, is still pretty good. I mean, obviously, Damien Leone's known for, like, practical effects and just, great stuff in general. Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to this one. I am also kind of like you. I do like the first Terrifier more than the second. I did like the second one a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it was mighty long. So hopefully this one isn't like 6 hours long. But
well, that's what I'm worried about, right? Like the second Terrifier was like 2.5 hours, and I think this one's gonna wind up being just as long. I'm hoping just like the Christmas angle to it just kind of spices things up a little bit and makes it a little bit more interesting. Or I don't know. 2.5 hours is a long time to spend with Art the Clown in any kind of setting, I think.
But I'm definitely interested. Obviously, we have the protagonist returning, and obviously from the second one, our protagonist has like special powers and stuff now.
Yeah.
Which I believe I've said many times on the normal show. This is when I love when franchises go into this, like, where I'm thinking Friday the 13th, like, what is it, 7 or whatever, where we get like basically Carrie versus Jason. Like, I'm all for this. Let's get wild. Let's get silly. So hopefully we get that story and maybe a little more contained, hopefully.
And like I said, it should have been coming out closer to Christmas, like the couple of movies we're discussing next. But
yeah, well, and I feel like this is probably why it's not Christmas. We're getting to the most wonderful time of the year, I believe that song says.
I think it's gonna be next year. It's huge.
So we have the 4th Jordan Peele film coming, which is Untitled. Now. Probably most of us not familiar with Jordan Peele. Directed little, like, tiny movies called Get Out, Us, Nope, tiny.
He's a small-time indie director, so.
But so small time that my first note on this is in capital letters just says, Jordan Peele is God.
Don't overhype it, jeez.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we don't know anything about it. Jordan Peele notoriously doesn't leak anything, until he is ready for you to get what it is.
This is the sort of thing we're going to get like a teaser poster in June for. We're a ways out from knowing anything about this. Probably teaser poster in June. They'll ramp up the marketing in like August, and we'll be ready to go Christmas time. But yeah, I'm similar to yourself. I can't wait to see this. I loved Nope. Nope is my favorite film of his. So that's the crazy part where it's like, obviously we just reviewed Get Out, had a great episode of that a few weeks back, and that was a slay from me as well. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and I'm hoping he'll go 3 for 4. I'm one of the few people I really disliked Us, but like I said, he came back in a big way with Nope for me, and I can't wait to see what he does next Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of similar to you. We've talked about before. Like, I wasn't big on Us either, but of course, I always say, to me, Us is most directors' best movie. So, that's quite a lot to say. I noted that, with this Christmas release, I believe, especially when we did Get Out, we kind of had the conversation of like, Jordan Peele like climbing the ladder into like, I don't know if he's at legendary yet, but kind of just like top directors possible. And I'm looking at what he's going against. Universal is confident in him, as just the week before Avatar 3 is dropping, and they're like, you know what, we're sending Jordan after James Cameron. So that's like a salute to him.
I think Jordan Peele's gonna lose in that fight. I think the Na'vi are too big, they're too blue, they're too powerful. But, hopefully it doesn't cannibalize the box office too much, especially because we have another huge horror release coming out that day, Christmas Day, December 25th, 2024. Robert Eggers, his passion project. He's been trying to get this done, I feel like, since I've heard the guy's name back in 2015. It's Nosferatu. Simply, the synopsis is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. I've heard that this is less so an adaptation of Nosferatu, and it's more so Dracula, just Bram Stoker's Dracula, just, obviously with Robert Eggers' sensibilities, his adherence to, like, historical accuracy, his weird penchant for, like, developing new filming styles and film stock and weird old language and all that stuff. I'm cautiously optimistic for this one. I'm thinking that if he's had this idea kicking around for, the better part of a decade, I think it could be pretty strong. And the cast, even though there has been a lot of people coming in and out of these roles over the past few years, and some of the combinations were a little bit more exciting than what we got, I still think Bill Skarsgård's probably going to be a really good vampire or Dracula. I think the guy's going to kill it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking like Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Willem Dafoe, and then our boy, Robert Eggers' boy, Ralph Ineson, making another appearance on the list.
Of course, and, you forgot the star of the movie, Lily Rose Depp. I mean, I think it was supposed to be Anya Taylor-Joy at some point, and we got Lily Rose, but...
I mean, I'm more excited for the possibility of Ralph Ineson just yelling old-timey names again, so I'm all for that. But, yeah, I mean, I'm like, how can you not be looking forward to this? It's Robert Eggers. I always wonder, as we continue this Robert Eggers adventure of not working with A24, if you cry yourself to sleep a little bit at night, that you're like... why can't guys just get back together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit upset over it. I kind of feel like A24, there was a point in which they had to go with Robert Eggers or Ari Aster, and I'm just kind of like that meme. Why not both? Like, they have enough money. Why didn't they go with both? I understand The Northman was expensive. I can't see Nosferatu being like $100 million movie. They could have got back together for this one, but, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I can't wait to see this. The couple of screens that they've released from it, they released just, obviously one of Lily Rose Depp with the hand coming over her face, the shadow. They just released a weird looking picture of Nicholas Hoult where he looks like a little baby today, where he's just, scared babe in the woods. And then one epic shot of Willem Dafoe. He's like in this room with fire consuming it, and he got a lantern, and he's standing in front of a casket or, some sort of stone tomb. Like, these ones just all came out today. He's, I think, a vampire hunter, probably like a Van Helsing-esque character.
Fuck yeah.
I don't know. I think this is going to be great. I wasn't huge on the Northman. I'm sure loads of our listeners listened to that episode. It was a good one for us. But yeah, I can't wait to see what he does with Nosferatu. And with that puts an end to, all the movies with dates, which is insane because we're basically like halfway through. We're probably going to have to pick up the pace a little bit. Rowan has some obligations. Can't be here all day talking about the movies of 2024.
The rate we're going, we're going to end up doing this in like 2 parts. I'm going to have to record like again on this episode.
Well, thankfully, I think we don't have quite as much to say about some of these movies. I mean, do we have to talk extensively about Winnie the Pooh 2 and Bambi the Reckoning? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're exactly what they say. We have Riss Frack Waterfield coming back for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I looked up Dan Allen because I was like, what's Dan Allen ever done? Well, he's done Tubi movies. That's what he's done.
Oh, so you know him well. You're
yeah,
big fan of his work.
But yeah, I mean, really, my only comments on both of these were just capital letters that said, fuck it, let's go. You know what? They're going to be what they're going to be. As bad as, realistically, technically, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey it was still pretty funny to watch and just, funny to see what kind of terror they can get these beloved characters to do.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing really to say about these. We have to do Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 for sure, and I'm sure Bambi the Reckoning will be equally as excellent. So yeah, we'll definitely be checking both of those out if they make 2024. Once again, it's like, I think Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 has a February release date, but it's like, I never even put that into the dates because they haven't even started shooting that. And don't get me wrong, I think they can turn around those movies pretty quick, but I don't believe that's coming out in February. Next on our list, probably of the similar caliber of Winnie the Pooh and Bambi, we got MaXXXine with the 3 X's. This is obviously Ty West's the finish, the ending to his trilogy of X, Pearl, and now MaXXXine. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if you're looking forward to this. The little synopsis is, it follows MaXXXine, who is the only survivor of the bloody incidents of X, as she continues her journey towards fame to be an actress in 1980s Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested. It feels like this is going to kind of have more of a like sleazy exploitation, like late 70s feel, which that's kind of my wheelhouse. So I'm a little more excited for this. Obviously, when we did X, we did Pearl. I felt in our reviews I was pretty lukewarm on both of them. I actually, I've seen X again since then. I've kind of come around on X. I really enjoy X now. I haven't rewatched Pearl. I'll have to do so because, like I said, I know everyone loved it, and I kind of felt like the odd man out that I was not as necessarily pumped on Pearl, but I love me a goth. And I do like overall the story and what Ty West is doing. So I'm very interested, and I'm always happy for Colton when there's another A24 movie coming.
Well, I mean, we're not stopping there.
Yeah.
The next one as well, Heretic, another A24 movie.
Yeah, so Heretic, directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who, brought a dinosaur movie to us, 65.
They wrote that one and then also wrote, I think, Quiet Place, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
And directed Haunt, which I actually love. I love that movie.
Okay.
But the synopsis is as follows. 2 Mormon missionaries attempt to convert a man who turns out to be far more dangerous than they could have anticipated. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I never doubt A24's track record in picking these films. I'm not as excited as some of the other releases just because I am not a Hugh Grant guy. And yeah, apparently he is the star of this film.
Yeah, I think probably like Chloe East and Sophie Thatcher will wind up overshadowing him to some degree because I guess it's I think he winds up being like dangerous, obviously, from that synopsis, and maybe he does take a more starring role. But I feel like we'll be following them and how they kind of get out of his sick and twisted game that he's playing with them. I'm also not the biggest Hugh Grant guy either. I really liked him in Paddington 2, but I mean, other than that, I can kind of do without Hugh. So
yeah.
Next up, we have Shelby Oaks, which I'm curious to see how much you know about this. This is a movie that was basically, it wasn't crowdfunded, I guess, or was it complete? It was crowdfunded.
Yes,
I supported
it.
Yeah. So this is Chris Stuckman's feature directorial debut. Obviously, a very well-known film reviewer. I think he might even be the most popular one on YouTube. And I'm just kind of curious to see what his feature horror chops is like, because he's obviously one of those guys throughout the years. He's obviously made a lot of enemies, reviewing all these different movies. It took him a long time to get the funding in order for this one. I think he raised over $1 million, and then he had to do a second round for the visual effects and post and whatnot. I'm one of those people that I pledged at some point to get, I think it was like a digital copy of this movie when it comes out. So we'll definitely be reviewing it when it comes out. And I believe it's a found footage horror film as well, which is, kind of up my alley.
Yeah, I have a full-blown synopsis for it.
Oh, well, go for it.
So the synopsis is: the Paranormal Paranoids, a team of paranormal investigators, uncover a dark legacy and the far-reaching effects their investigation has as Mia researches for her sister Riley, the lead paranormal investigator, 12 years later. As Mia uncovers new and disturbing leads related to Riley's disappearance, she uncovers evidence of a hidden supernatural evil dating all the way back to her and Riley's childhood.
Okay. I mean, that seems like it could be good. It also feels like something we've seen before. It's hitting on, the childhood trauma aspects, and Chris Stuckman has like kind of a strange sense of humor, so I'm hoping that like the paranormal paranoids isn't like too slapsticky. But I mean, regardless, I'm just interested in checking this out.
I'm a big Chris Stuckman fan. Like, I've been following on YouTube for years. I think it's been pretty cool to watch the transformation. Like, when he started this movie, he actually like doesn't give number ratings or anything anymore.
Yeah, no
now,
more letters. Yeah.
Now that he's been making a film, I think he's like, okay, this isn't the easiest thing to do. But I was kind of excited. I saw in the cast list he got Keith David. So
nice.
I will never complain about seeing Keith David on film. So if anything, I'll get, even if it's a cameo, I'll get to see some Keith David. And that's always an exciting thing.
Absolutely.
And it's time to take another shot.
Oh, really?
Adrift.
That's not Blumhouse 2, is it?
Jason Blum's got his money in everything.
Bro, this is a Darren Aronofsky movie. Really? That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, once again, I'm shocked, dumbfounded. But yeah, I mean, you got a synopsis for this one?
Yes, I do. This is where my research is really coming into play. So don't think I'm
all these,
overpowering.
if it's not, too obvious, all the ones without dates, I got no notes for. I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
All right, well, then I'll know that. So I have a synopsis for a lot of these. So yeah, directed by Darren Aronofsky. The synopsis is as follows. In the dead calm of the open sea, a fishing boat discovers an abandoned yacht after responding to a strange distress call. A deckhand agrees to take lone control of it while it's towed into port, but he soon discovers why the rest of his more experienced crew members call it a ghost ship. Yeah, I mean, we have Jared Leto reuniting with Darren in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Leto has not been one of my favorite actors in most recent years, but I have to give him props. Requiem for a Dream is a banger, and he's excellent in that movie. So hopefully Aronofsky can, do something here for sure.
And I would assume before this comes out, we'll see the third or fourth theater run of Morbius hit just to get everyone amped up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Sony will be throwing that bad boy back in theaters probably the week before this, I'd say. Get everyone ready for Jared again.
But yeah, I am kind of on board for an Aronofsky Blumhouse film.
Weird ghost ship movie?
Yeah, like, it's bizarre. I mean, obviously, my relationship with Aronofsky is also kind of rocky. I I really liked Mother. I love Requiem for a Dream. I hated The Whale. You know, I think he's like a hit or miss kind of guy. But Jared Leto always has my interest just because he's usually not great unless he's doing his Luigi impression in House of Gucci. But you know what? Like, he's just so weird. I'm interested.
Yeah, Aronofsky for me, he's a little bit more hit than miss, I would say, because I'm one of the few people that did really like The Whale. I like Black Swan. I think The Wrestler is probably a masterpiece. So
I do like that.
I really didn't like Mother, and I didn't like Noah. The rest I've seen by him are, good in my books. So hopefully this will be another one. We got nothing to go off of other than a watercolor painting of a sailboat adrift. So, we'll see if this one turns out to be good.
My question is, will Jared Leto climb a skyscraper again and promote this movie? That's how he promoted his newest album. So,
God, what a wiener. Yeah, like I'm done with Jared Leto, despite having listened to a good bit of 30 Seconds to Mars in my youth. So next up, we have a little movie called Dust Bunny. This one's directed by Brian Fuller. And it's described as an 8-year-old girl asks her scheming neighbor for help in killing the monster under her bed that she thinks ate her family. We have Mads Mikkelsen in this, reuniting with Brian Fuller from Hannibal.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah.
And we also have Sigourney Weaver and David Dastmalchian, which obviously we all know Sigourney Weaver, and in more recent years we know David Dastmalchian as well. But he's just a strange character actor. Like, was it the Boogeyman that he popped up in? Yeah. We were just like, what is David Dastmalchian doing here? So this is another one. We got David on the go. I hopefully it winds up being good. What, any thoughts on Brian Fuller or Dust Bunny?
I love Brian Fuller. He also did the giant Shudder documentary Queer for Fear. And this is one of those situations where I hope it's good, because all the interviews, everything I've read with Brian Fuller, like, he just seems like a genuine nice guy. And I just really respect, he takes being like a historian of horror very seriously. So it's one of those things where, like, I really hope it's a big win for him, especially because, it didn't make it on this list because it's definitely not coming out this year. But, like, he's actually currently tapped. He's directing the Christine remake.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That they're putting together. So, which, he got his blessing. John Carpenter said everything he's heard, he believes Brian Fuller can do a better job than him. So
wow, that's a vouch. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I'm like super interested in this. Great cast. We'll see what happens. And then from there we have the new Zach Cregger film, Weapon. So obviously, Zach Cregger as the director of Barbarian
and Miss March.
And
we
Miss
all want to
March.
forget that he directed.
I never saw that one.
Yeah, you don't need to see it.
I mean, there's not an official synopsis for this, but he's kind of said what it's about, which it's an interrelated multi-store horror epic that revolves around the disappearance of high schoolers in a small town. His exact words were, this was a horror version of Magnolia. And he won me over already. I love Magnolia. That is like a teenage Rowan favorite film. I still love that movie, and it stars Pedro Pascal, so how can anyone hate on Pedro?
Well, we also have to bring up once again Renate Rensva. She's in this as well, which she was in that however long it was, an hour and a half ago now, that handing out the undead or handling the undead movie as well. So that's pretty wild that she's in 2 horror movies coming out in 2024, like once again just as like a Danish or a Swedish actress. I also have, apparently on some lists they have like Brian Tyree Henry listed, which he's pretty good when he crops up in different things as well. This is something like, I'm interested in seeing this. I thought Barbarian was great when it came out. It just felt like one of those breath of fresh air in horror, a strong new director, a new voice. I didn't absolutely adore everything about it, but it was definitely a strong debut. And I know Weapons in particular, the screenplay ignited a fierce bidding war. I feel like Zach Kreger got paid 8, maybe even 9 figures for directing / writing this. So the guy's making bank now. He is set for life, and hopefully Weapons is going to be, worth the wait when it comes out later this year. With that, the next thing I got on the list is Longlegs. Now, I'm pulling it up here. Is that the new... Yes, it is. It's exactly what I was thinking of. The new Oz Perkins movie. The guy who directed... When I saw it, it was called February.
Oh, okay.
And then they changed it to, I think, The Blackcoat's Daughter. And then more recently he's done... Was it Gransel and Hansel and Gretel? I can't remember the order that he called it, but
I remember seeing I remember seeing the trailer for those. I really remember the trailer for I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
I haven't seen that one, which that's obviously I'm forgetting that one.
Yeah, that was like a Netflix one, I believe.
Okay.
I was gonna say I'm familiar with Oz Perkins because he was also in the Queer for Fear documentary. Because obviously, probably most well known as the son of Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates in Psycho.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Longlegs is described as FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes unexpected turns, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. So the main thing I'm a little bit worried about with this is I love serial killer cases attached to the occult. That brings me right back to True Detective. That show is excellent. And then there's been some other things, such as Alan Wake 2, that within the last year has touched on that for me. I am a little bit iffy on Nicolas Cage. I don't know who he will be playing in this, whether he'll be the killer or if he is, an FBI agent or what he is. So a little bit iffy on that. Micah Monroe is in it, though.
Yes,
I think
fantastic.
She's pretty great. So, yeah,
she has a pretty good track record, too. So one of the people I can say that I don't need to tell to get a new agent.
Yes, that's fair. She does usually pick pretty good projects. They're not always the most commercial or most well-known, but she definitely has established herself as, she can act, right? She's not in, all these movies that are, diminishing her acting abilities. She's always done very well in the movies that she's been in. So Longlegs, I don't know, not too much to go off of. Hopefully it's good.
And then next up, we have Salem's Lot that has been talked about for a couple years now.
I was apprehensive even putting this on the list because I feel like I think I had it listed on our last Now Slaying list, and I don't know, it keeps getting kicked around. Yeah, maybe 2024 is the year for Salem's Lot.
So, directed by Gary Doberman, who, all I could find, directed Annabelle Comes Home, which I have not seen.
I think I have seen that one. Is that the third one?
I believe. I feel like people like that one.
Yeah, so that one, if it's the one I'm thinking of, is very silly, where it's kind of like the room breaks open and basically all of the different creatures and possessed items and whatnot kind of get out, and it's just a little bit zanier. It's fun. I think there's even a werewolf in it set in the Conjuring universe or something. Just a sillier movie for sure. But
there is a synopsis for it, and its author Ben Mears returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot in search of inspiration for his next book, only to discover his hometown is being preyed upon by a bloodthirsty vampire. Obviously, very famous Stephen King book.
Pretty famous, television adaptation for it as well, The Little Boy in the Window. That's an iconic horror shot for sure.
Yeah, and this is, there has been Salem Lot movies. There was a Return to Salem's Lot movie, I think in the 80s, early 90s. This one, I can't say I'm overly excited. I know... I think the last time Stephen King talked about this, he said he saw cuts of it, said he really liked it, but basically said Warner Brothers just keep shelving it. So that kind of makes me question how good this really is. I believe this is one of those ones that originally they were just going to send to streaming, which is to me never a good sign. I didn't even watch it, but I heard how well, the newest Pet Sematary entry worked out. So, I can't say I have big hopes for this. And yeah, it seems like this is we're going on like the third year that this was supposed to be a thing.
To be fair, David Zaslav, the like CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery now, like he's just making shitloads of like poor decisions, you know, like shelving movies that are completed for tax write-offs. He's removing so much stuff from the platforms. You know, HBO's even being affected to a certain degree at this point. So it's just, I don't know if we can just basically say if Salem's Lot isn't out, it means it's not a good movie. I just literally think the guy might be like, oh, we can get $30 million extra from this movie, and he doesn't realize that a Salem's Lot movie released in theaters, if it is good and marketed correctly, could make much more than that. So it could be an indictment of this movie's not actually good. But once again, Stephen King kind of vouching for it when he's, you know, notorious for not vouching for good adaptations of his movies, or at least calling out when he doesn't enjoy them.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I'm interested in it. I like the original, you know, miniseries kind of version of Salem's Lot. So yeah, I'd be, you know, interested in checking this out for sure. Next one on our list, Faces of Death. This was a Rowan edition. I have not seen the original Faces of Death, pretty much intentionally so. Have you seen it?
A long time ago. I
Okay.
definitely saw a VHS copy of it.
Yeah, because it's like literally like snuff film, pretty much, isn't it? Like it's just like
It is like
footage of
a
people dying.
compilation of people and animals being murdered and killed. Obviously, it was super infamous because when it came out, they advertised it as just scenes of real beheadings, real animals being murdered. It basically later came out that pretty much everything in it was staged.
Okay, I never heard that little.
Yes,
wrinkle to it.
it actually turned out that they pretty much didn't show anything real, but it was so infamous they made like a bunch of them. Like they kind of came out, and yeah, the conceit, it ended up dying off. The conceit was that they're just doing these, like they're just having filmmakers make snuff, like fake snuff, essentially.
Gotcha. And this one, the new, the remake or, you know, re-envisioning of the franchise, it kind of seems to be kind of commenting on that a little bit. The synopsis says, a moderator on an internet video sharing platform stumbles across a potential snuff film ring hidden in the depths of the site's content. Are these gruesome videos merely a morbid work of shock value fiction or something all too horribly real? So very much playing with basically what I've seen online, that, you know, people were kind of vouching for the validity of these movies as actual snuff films. So yeah, I mean, this is something that it could wind up being pretty interesting. It'll probably wind up being on the strength of its recreations, of being able to kind of lure and make the audience believe that what they're seeing is real. Kind of similar to something like the Poughkeepsie tapes that I watched literally this year, where I was watching it fully knowledgeable that this was obviously a mockumentary, but also just the way it was doled out and the recreations of like the murders on the tapes and whatnot. It felt still very real and kind of, you know, made me feel like I shouldn't be watching it. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if director Daniel Goldhaber can, you know, manage that or not.
Yeah, I really liked Cam. I remember watching that when it came out, and I thought it was really interesting. I haven't seen How to Blow Up a Pipeline, but I've only heard good things.
People have been freaking out about that movie, dude. I missed it at TIFF the year that it premiered, and I have been kind of slapping myself ever since. I realized I can just go and download it or find it here on the stream, but you know, it's one of those I definitely got to check out.
But yeah, like you said, I'm kind of interested to see the twist, especially where, you know, like you said, you know, they're not, you know, making a bunch of compilations for this. It's more so commenting on the series in kind of a meta way. I'm obviously interested. I see like Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria is the star, as well as you know, the heartthrob for every young girl in Mom, Decree Montgomery, who plays Billy in Stranger Things, is the other co-lead of it. So I don't know. It has potential. Like I said, I like Cam enough that I'm glad to just see someone give him something of like a property to see what he can do with it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I'll be checking it out.
So from that, we have Never Let Go, the new Alexandria Aja film. And
Alexander Aja.
Oh, sorry, that was my bad pronunciation. Yeah, Alexander Aja.
There we go.
Who everyone should probably know from Crawl, The Hills Have Eyes remake, and High Tension, which we did for a Pride pick.
Yes.
And the synopsis for this one is a mother and her twin sons who have been haunted by an evil spirit for years find their safety and their surroundings compromised when one of the children questions whether the evil is real or imagined. The Hills Have Eyes remake, possibly one of my all-time favorite horror remakes. Go revisit all the time. I saw it in the theater. I remember how shocking, how brutal it was.
Yeah, it was seriously unsettling at the age I watched it. I don't know if I've told it on the show, but I lied. I think I was 12 or something when I snuck into the theater to go see it. I said I was 16 or whatever I needed to be in Goose Bay at the time. And I just walked in confidently, said I was 16, got to see The Hills Have Eyes.
Nice.
And was terrified, or at least I was very unsettled, I guess, with all the mutants and, it was just very effective.
I know you didn't love, but I know I loved High Tension. I'm one of the weird ones. I haven't seen Crawl, another movie I own and have never watched. But I
gotta
feel,
see Crawl. Come on,
I feel like people love it.
Yeah, it's not like amazing. I'm not gonna say like, oh, it's the best movie ever. It was fine for what it is. We don't really get those creature features anymore, and it did have kind of like an impressive amount of like destruction and whatnot on display. Like it takes place in a flood. Like the sets being flooded, the alligators, freaking out, swimming around. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people also really liked Oxygen by him, which similarly, I thought was also like pretty good. I think that one was a little bit more of like a restrained single location thriller, sci-fi slant to it. And I think they really did a good job kind of exhausting what you could do with the premise. Like I really do like when it's a single location thriller, horror, drama, what have you, and you exhaust every single different thing I can think of as the viewer. I'm not like left thinking like, why didn't they try that? Like it was very smart from what I remember.
But yeah, so I mean, just on the strength of who's directing it, I'm interested. I'm not a huge Halle Berry fan, who is the star of this.
Yeah.
So that doesn't excite me. And I can't even say the synopsis excites me whatsoever. But I have a feeling, I'm hoping that, he brings some brutality to the screen and, can shock us once again.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. Speaking of shocking us once again, I think The Strangers is probably a movie a lot of people remember from the mid-2000s as being, at least when I watched it, I thought it was pretty unsettling.
Oh, yeah. Great.
So the next one coming up, The Strangers Chapter 1. I think for some reason they announced like a trilogy of Strangers movies.
So Rennie Harlan, who directed this, got greenlit for all three. And as far as I know, all three are shot because the original concept was that these were all supposed to come out last year. And he said they were all going to come out like at the same time, essentially. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want like separate release dates. Like he was like, they all get released at once. And apparently whoever was the real money people said, no, we're not going to do that.
They were like, no, we could make way too much money if we release them like once a year for the next 3 years. So yeah, the Strangers Chapter 1. I never even realized this would have a synopsis or anything, but it does. It says, after their car breaks down, a couple driving across country to begin a new life in the Pacific Northwest is forced to spend the night in a secluded rental where they are terrorized from dusk till dawn by three masked strangers.
So, I mean, we're pretty much getting, the original movie.
The original over again. Yeah. Maybe with a little bit of a modern slant, probably Airbnb, something like that.
Harlan has said that this is going to be the same tone as the first film, but it will not remake the first one, and it will not be a sequel to any of one or two.
Yeah, I remember I saw the remake, the sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night, a few years ago, and it was like a very different tone, like neon washed, almost like a slasher.
It was more campy. It was a little more fun, and
so I'm kind of interested to see them get back to the original's tone. I remember that being a pretty like slow burn, like once again unsettling, tense movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that's what I remember from it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the first one. I don't know how much confidence I have in Rennie Harlan. I mean, he's made some great movies. I love The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is a great 90s action film. He did A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which I am a big fan of. That's kind of like the MTV one. He did Die Hard 2, Deep Blue Sea, and he also did The Exorcist Beginning, which I'm pretty sure is considered the worst Exorcist movie. ever made. It was so bad they basically had to put out the same movie recut again.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. This is definitely going to be a trauma movie. I saw that he said that he wants to explore how this type of violence affects the victims. So it's going to like follow, the after effects throughout the chapters. But I saw Richard Bracks in it. I'm just going to assume he's the main villain, who everyone would know from Barbarian or, lots of Rob Zombie films. And then I'm super excited. Madeleine Petsch is in it from Riverdale, who plays Cherry Blossom.
Man, so many of these Riverdale actors are just like springing up in all these different movies. I should have watched Riverdale, at least a few episodes, so I knew who the hell these people are.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are pretty good actors, and she probably had the most range out of any of the actors of the show. Nice. And her kind of plot line in Riverdale was very culty and horrorish, so like not a stranger, no pun intended, to to like horror stuff.
Well, speaking of culty, I say you get to our next pick.
So yeah, our next pick, Witchboard. Yeah, so Chuck Russell directing this, which is pretty, I have some faith in that. Chuck Russell did probably one of the most beloved horror sequels of all time, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
Also directed The Mask, which I revisited recently and is actually a banger film.
With Jim Carrey?
With Jim Carrey, like weirdly enough.
Okay. All right.
As an adult, I'm like, I did not appreciate this as a kid. I like how dark and fucked up it is. And also did the Blob remake, which is like a cult classic already. Like, that was like one of the first 4Ks that Scream Factory released because it's such a big movie. But we do have a synopsis for it, which is Emily and her fiance Christian discover a mysterious Wiccan artifact as they prepare to open a bistro in New Orleans, French Quarter. A darkness descends over Emily as she becomes obsessed with the board's power of divine ability to summon spirits, and Christian seeks the help of Alexander Baptiste, a mysterious occult expert who's hiding secrets of his own. Now, I said to Colton, we reviewed Witchboard 2 way back in like the first year of its slays, but I've never seen this first one. So I'll have to watch it before I watch the remake, I guess.
Yeah, this is one that I don't really have any... Well, I don't want to say any interest in, because once again, I haven't checked out the Witchboard series at all. I've seen some of Chuck Russell's other movies, obviously. I mean, come on, The Scorpion King, dude. I mean... But I mean, the Blob, the original Blob, or it might be a remake, but the 1988 The Blob.
That's the one he did, yeah.
Yeah, is great. That's so good. So... his last few releases don't really do much for me either, but hopefully, maybe this reimagining of Witchboard can do something interesting. Just from the little trailer, like blurb that's playing there on the IMDb as I take a look, it at least looks like it has some stylistic flair. It has some, occult imagery, some people dancing around a fire, that sort of thing. Hopefully it can do it, like, take it seriously. I guess that's more so what I'm looking for. I don't want it to be too campy or too silly or over the top. I mean, the occult and specifically witchcraft, how it's been portrayed in some of the A24 movies, throughout the last few years has been very effective, in my opinion. So I would like to see something a little bit more serious and less...
Yeah, and the originals, especially the second one we did, was like, it's very campy, very people love it because they're so bad, and there's lots of like film mistakes and errors in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was pretty excited. I saw Madison Eisman is starring in this one. She was the star of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Amazon show, which. Okay. I thought was awesome. I was a really big fan of that, and she was the best part of it. So I'm interested to see her in something else because that's the only thing I've ever seen her in. So,
well, I think with that brings us to our last pick here, Rowan, which is Thread, an Insidious Tale. I had no idea that this was coming. I don't know if I cared all too much that this was coming. Obviously, we saw earlier this year Insidious: The Red Door. And even though I will say that it kind of surprised me a little bit, where it was actually like kind of keeping the storyline of the series kind of flowing through it, it still wasn't a very good movie by all accounts, outside of a couple of choice horror scenes. So Thread an Insidious tale says it's about a husband and wife who enlist the help of a spell to travel back in time, such that they can prevent the death of their young daughter. The consequences, of course, prove to be severe. Do we need time travel in the Insidious movies, which is already complicated with this like ghost realm, these demonic entities, like Liz is it Liz? The woman who always comes in as like the demonologist. Like, do we need time travel? Is that something?
I mean, you know what? The sad thing is whether you need it or not. This is another one. This will sell like crazy. People go goo goo gaga over Insidious. I saw the directorial debut of Jeremy Slater, who I am familiar with. He wrote an indie film called Pet, which is a horror film that I actually kind of enjoyed, and was also the writer on another criminally, underrated television show, which was the Exorcist TV show.
Yeah, he was the creator of it.
Yeah, and that might be the second best Exorcist property next to the original film, in my opinion.
I've heard nothing but, very positive remarks about the Exorcist TV show. So
fantastic. And like the writing, it was one of the strongest parts of it. So I have faith that maybe the writing will be good for this, but he's also directing. I don't know how he is as a director.
Yeah, you say the writing as well, where it's like he also did the Death Note adaptation for Netflix, the screenplay for it, and that was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Well, and you always worry too with these, like, writing, you got to kind of put in brackets, because he's got to also, like, he's going to have to follow rules on the Insidious properties and, exactly. Work in Patrick Wilson somewhere.
And then he also did Fan Four Stick, back in 2015, Fantastic Four. Like, there's just, once again, he has been improving, obviously. Like Moon Knight, even though I didn't love it, it wasn't terrible, and I know people have positive remarks on the Umbrella Academy. I've never watched it myself.
I thought
so. He is involved with some different things, but yeah, as we said, this is a directorial debut. It's a spin-off of the Insidious franchise, which is already, in my opinion, threadbare.
Yeah,
that we don't really need too much of these. So, not really looking forward to it. And Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani in the year 2024. Don't really do too much for me anymore. So I don't know. It's not one that I can't wait to see, And with that, I think we finally made it. This, like I said, I was expecting this to be a long discussion. I think we did a pretty good job, going through everything. If you're listening to this episode and you're like, you forgot my favorite horror movie coming out in 2024, the one I'm anticipating the most, just leave a comment. Let us know. We'll address it. I'm sure we forgot something embarrassing.
Oh, of course.
So you can let us know on our socials at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, /, Letterboxd, Threads, Blue Sky. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Stephen, Joy, Carvey, Dan, Brian, and Trevor, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, Rowan, I guess you could have piped in some nice music playing in the background, something on a loop for 2 hours. That's not going to get too annoying, but I'm going to assume probably nothing from this episode makes the playlist. But go ahead and plug it.
Yeah, so if you want to get your spooky music on, go to Spotify to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton mentioned just beforehand. Go to the bio. There's a Linktree link. Click on it. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So yeah, go take a listen to the playlist. We're always updating it, and get your spooky music on.
And next time on the show, as I'm sure you all remember, back 2 hours ago, it's going to be Night Swim. We're going to be covering Night Swim. This isn't releasing until the end of the year or beginning of next, so Next time on the show, it's Night Swim. Just on a personal note, we just want to say thank you all for listening to this year. I hope you've been enjoying the content that we've been putting out. Behind the scenes, we've been working hard to make sure that we keep a consistent schedule, we keep something interesting coming out, something worth listening to, and just by all the support that's been thrown our way, it seems that you're all enjoying it as well. So I just wanted to say a thank you for listening this year, for sure. And with that, I think that about wraps things up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.